I never thought my life would change so drastically on a regular Wednesday afternoon. As a high school math teacher for the past 28 years, my schedule was pretty much set in stone. Every Wednesday, we had department meetings that usually went until 6 p.m., which meant I'd be home around 7. My wife of 30 years would usually be tired from her evening fitness class on Wednesdays, so I'd often make dinner while she showered and did other things around the house. We had our routine, and it worked, or so I thought. That Wednesday was different. Our principal canceled the meeting unexpectedly, and I found myself heading home at 3:30 p.m. instead. I thought I'd surprise my wife by preparing a nice dinner early. Our marriage had been going through some rough patches lately, mainly about money and other small things. She'd become more distant, more controlling about decisions, and would argue more than usual. But I considered myself patient and thought a nice surprise dinner might help. Our house was a 2-story place with the garage set away from the main building, something we planned when our kids were young to keep car noises from waking them. I parked in the garage and walked to the house, noticing my wife's car was there. Nothing unusual about that. She often took the bus to her fitness center. When I entered through the back door, I noticed her gym bag on the kitchen counter. That was weird. She never left it there. Her workout clothes were scattered on the floor near the counter. Then I heard noises from upstairs. I went up the carpeted stairs, thinking maybe she wasn't feeling well. That's when I saw men's shoes on the steps, definitely not mine. There were more clothes going up the stairs, pants, a shirt, socks. Mixed in with them were my wife's special occasion clothes that she usually saved for our anniversaries. I had to sit down on the stairs. My whole world was spinning. Through our walk-in closet, I could see into our bedroom. I took out my phone and recorded what I was seeing. I needed proof that this wasn't just a bad dream. I left the house quietly and walked to a park miles away. There, I sat on a bench and watched the recording, keeping the volume low because of kids playing nearby. Everything I thought I knew about my marriage was there on my phone screen, shattered into pieces. When I returned home at my usual time around 7 p.m., my wife noticed something was off. She asked if I was okay. I looked pale. I told her I wasn't feeling well, probably something I ate for lunch, and that I'd sleep in the spare room to avoid getting sick on our clean sheets. For the next few days, I kept sleeping in the spare room, using illness as an excuse. I needed time to think, to plan. I needed to know if this was a one-time thing or something more. I went back to our bedroom eventually, but sleeping there felt wrong now. That's when I decided to find out more. I told my principal I needed the next day off for a medical procedure, and he arranged for a substitute teacher. The next morning, I left home at my usual time but parked a few streets away. I walked back and waited in our garden, hidden behind the hedges we'd planted for privacy. I could hear my wife doing her usual morning routine, dishes, vacuuming, cleaning. Around 11:30, she went upstairs. I heard the shower running, then silence. When she came back down about 45 minutes later, she left the front door slightly open. At 12:30, he arrived. I didn't know who he was, but I recorded him on my phone as he walked through our gate. He went straight in like he'd done this many times before. I heard their friendly greetings, making it clear this wasn't the first time. I needed answers. Who was this man? Where had they met? How long had this been going on? I remembered my wife had been going to her fitness center for about 2 years now, where she'd made friends with other married women and got involved in charity events. Maybe that's where I needed to look next. The following Thursday, I suggested joining her at the fitness center, saying I might want to become a member too, especially since I had some free time with midterms coming up. She wasn't happy about the idea and made excuses about it being mostly married women who just chat during workouts. But I insisted, and she finally agreed. Walking into that fitness center felt like being in a movie. Everyone turned to look at me, and I could hear whispered conversations. My wife said they weren't used to seeing her with someone during her sessions. We started with warm-ups and stretching, followed by different exercise stations. About 45 minutes in, I needed a break. My blood sugar was getting low, so I sat down with some candy. That's when I really started watching what was happening. My wife seemed nervous, constantly looking toward the staff area. While I was sitting there, I noticed a wall with staff photos near the exit. The top photo showed the owner, a fit woman whose age I couldn't guess. Below her picture were 3 more photos, 2 women and 1 man. When I saw him, I froze. This was him, the man from our house. His name tag read, Head of Exercise Planning and Personal Training. I memorized his phone number from the board and went back to my seat. When I looked around for my wife, I couldn't find her at first. Then I spotted her having what looked like an urgent conversation with the same man near the staff area entrance. She seemed to be stopping him from going in. She hurried back to her exercise station before I could see more. When she came back, she asked if my blood sugar was better. Before I could answer, An announcement came over the speakers. The owner explained that tonight's final session was canceled because the trainer had suddenly fallen ill and left. Many women seemed disappointed, but my wife looked relieved. As we were leaving, another member came up to my wife and said, "Too bad he couldn't finish the session tonight." My wife just replied, "Yeah," and rushed to the car faster than usual. During the drive home, she kept her eyes closed, taking deep breaths like she was relieved about something. I decided to test the waters. "That was an interesting session. No wonder you're looking so fit these days." She thanked me and mentioned how great their program was, then quickly corrected herself when talking about the trainer who left early, like she was trying to hide something. I knew I needed to dig deeper, but I had to be careful. This wasn't just about my wife anymore. There seemed to be more going on at that fitness center than exercise classes. A few days later, during after-school pickup duty, I got an unexpected chance to learn more. The lady who had tried talking to my wife at the gym showed up late to pick up her son. She looked upset, like she'd been crying. "I'm so sorry I'm late. I'm new to this pickup routine," she said. "Is my son Jake still here?" I told her I'd find him while another teacher watched the remaining students. I found Jake near his classroom, talking with a friend. He was one of our older students, probably 12 or 13. "Hey Jake, your mom's here," I said. He looked confused and said something that caught my attention. "That's weird. Mom usually meets with her personal trainer on Thursday afternoons. At my old school, she sometimes didn't come until 5:30. When I heard personal trainer, I knew I had to ask more. "It's good your mom takes care of her health. Do you know the trainer's name?" "Yeah, it's the guy from the fitness center. He gives private lessons at people's homes too. That's what I want to do when I grow up," Jake said. "Mom's always really happy after their sessions. We always get takeout on Thursdays because she doesn't have time to cook." I walked Jake back to his mom's car. She thanked me for my help, and I introduced myself properly. "I'm Mr. Roberts, but the kids call me Mr. R. I think I saw you at the fitness center last week. I was there with my wife." Her whole attitude changed when I mentioned the fitness center. She went pale and started trembling. She quickly said goodbye and drove off, but I knew she had more to say. The next day, she was back during pickup time. "Mr. Roberts, can we talk?" she asked. Jake was playing with his soccer ball nearby while we sat on a bench. "You need to know something about that fitness center," she said, "and about the trainer." I told her I might already know some things, but asked her to continue. Tears formed in her eyes as she spoke. "He's been seeing multiple women from the center. I was one of them until last week. We met every Thursday at 12:30. Then suddenly he said he had someone else taking that time slot. No explanation, just done. She was recently divorced and said she missed being in a relationship. I actually thought we might have a future together. I was so wrong." I told her I knew about my wife's involvement and that I was already making plans to deal with the situation. She immediately offered to help. "That man needs to face consequences. He doesn't care who he hurts." She gave me a list of other women she knew he was involved with. My wife's name was on it. By this time, I had already moved most of my things out of our house. My wife had noticed the house feeling emptier, but accepted my excuse about decluttering. I had found a small house on the other side of town, just 2 bedrooms and a tiny yard, but it was close to school and I could afford it on my teacher's salary. I'd been slowly moving my belongings there, buying secondhand furniture when needed. I discovered the trainer lived just 3 blocks from our house, which explained how he could easily walk over for his visits with my wife. I started taking daily walks at 5 p.m., telling my wife it was doctor's orders. She didn't question it since it didn't interfere with her schedule. During these walks, I watched his apartment. He followed the same pattern every day. Leave our house before 6 p.m., arrive at his place right after. I took a week off from school to watch more closely. I bought some recording equipment, hidden cameras and microphones, and managed to place them in his apartment when he was out. He made it easy by keeping his spare key under the doormat. I put cameras in his living room and bedroom. The footage showed him making calls to different women, arranging meetings. One morning, he called my wife. "Hey, how's my favorite feeling today?" She replied, "Don't talk like that on the phone. You never know who could be listening. Lucky my husband's at work. See you at 12:30 as usual." I also put a camera in the private assessment room at the fitness center where he met his clients. The footage confirmed what Jake's mom had told me. There were many women involved. While gathering evidence, I was also preparing for my exit. I had moved nearly everything to my new house. I just needed 20 minutes to grab my last few things and leave. I'd already talked to a divorce lawyer and had all the paperwork ready. I emptied our joint savings account that was meant for a vacation, keeping all receipts as proof. I changed my superannuation fund to list our children as beneficiaries and withdrew what I could. I set up separate bank accounts, credit cards, and insurance policies in my name only. I even transferred the car registration to her name, so she'd be responsible for it. I bought a new phone with an unlisted number and deactivated my old one. The stage was set for what would come next. I made a file for each husband or partner of the women from Jake's mom's list. Each file had details about when and where the trainer met their wives, his name, address, and contact information. I also included the address of a local health clinic, since these meetings weren't exactly safe. I wrote to the fitness center owner about having a serious talk with her head trainer. On our kitchen table, I left the divorce papers along with photos from the video recordings and DVDs showing everything. Next to these, I placed my wedding ring, cut in half and dipped in something nasty. My note to my wife was simple: I'm leaving you this damaged ring. It's covered in the same mess that our marriage became. Don't try to contact me except through my lawyer. I've told the school to keep you away, and I've told our children everything. They have copies of the DVDs too, so you can't twist the story. I drove to my new house and waited. Everything exploded quickly after that. The local newspaper somehow found out about what was happening at the fitness center. The owner had to shut down and leave town. Someone found the trainer beaten up in an alley. Apparently, several angry husbands had caught up with him. The local court suddenly had many divorce cases to handle. Houses started going up for sale all over town. When my wife came home and found what I'd left, she fainted. Our elderly neighbor heard her scream, called an ambulance, and left her front door open. My wife tried calling me but couldn't reach any of my numbers. When she came to the school, they arrested her. After spending a night in jail and getting warned by a judge, she stopped trying to contact me. Our children weren't happy with her either. They're both married now and thankfully turned out more faithful than their mother. The divorce went through normally. We had to sell the house and split everything. She bought a smaller place in the outer parts of town where she lives alone now. People don't forget easily in a small town. Whenever she goes downtown, people still whisper and stare. They call her one of the fitness center women. The shame got to her eventually, and she had to spend some time in a mental health facility. Me? I kept teaching at the same school. I'm comfortable in my small house. Sometimes I think about how one canceled meeting changed everything. If our principal hadn't canceled that Wednesday meeting, I might still be living a lie. The fitness center building is empty now. Someone put up a for sale sign, but nobody wants to buy it. Too much bad history, I guess. Last I heard, the trainer moved to another state after he got out of the hospital. Jake's mom found a new job in the next town over. She still brings Jake to our school but uses a different pickup area now. Our children visit me in my new house. They say it feels more like home than our old place ever did. Maybe because there are no lies here. I got rid of most of our old photos and everything that reminded me of those 30 years. Some people say I should start dating again, but I'm not ready. Teaching keeps me busy enough. The money I saved from our joint accounts helped me fix up my new place. It's small, but it's mine. I planted a garden in the tiny backyard, something I always wanted to do but my wife never allowed. I grow vegetables now and share them with my neighbors. Sometimes when I'm grading papers late at night, I wonder how many other marriages in our town weren't what they seemed. After what happened at the fitness center, a lot of couples started going to marriage counseling. I guess some good came from all this mess. The court ordered my wife to pay me half of everything, including her pension. I didn't want it at first, but my lawyer said I should take it. I put it all in a college fund for our future grandchildren. At least something good can come from all those lies. Last week, I ran into our old neighbor at the grocery store. She told me my wife is trying to sell her house and move away. Can't blame her. Must be hard living where everyone knows what you did. The neighbor said she seems better after her time in the mental hospital, but still doesn't go out much. I don't feel good about how things turned out for her, but I don't feel bad either. Choices have consequences. I chose to be faithful for 30 years. She chose something else. Now we both live with those choices. My new house isn't big or fancy, but when I wake up each morning, I know everything in it is honest. No hidden cameras, no secret meetings, no lies. Just me, my teaching job, my garden, and peace of mind. Sometimes that's all you need.